Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to look at some books that I want you to avoid buying. And no, this is not some reverse psychology stuff where I'm going to say don't buy these books, but then I secretly want you to actually buy these books. I am legitimately saying do not buy these books. And the reason being, you will potentially overpay. You will catch a brick if you buy these books now. And so we are going to look at some specific examples, but I'm also going to talk about a philosophy or an approach. And there may be some people that are hearing what I'm saying right now and will automatically assume that I am talking about speculation when I am not. I think that the advice that I'm going to offer in this video is good for those that choose to speculate or invest or just regular collectors that want to add really awesome books to their collection. Now isn't always the best time to buy a book, and that's what we're going to talk about. Stay tuned. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples. And I've tried to make these timely examples to kind of illustrate the point, but as part of that, I'm only going to be looking at modern comics. But rest assured again that I believe the philosophical approach that I'm going to talk about is applicable to all ages of books. And again, also applicable regardless of whether you are a speculator, investor, collector, or not. All right. So the very first example that I want to show you, if I can bring this up on screen, is what is happening with Moonlight issue #1, specifically Moonlight from the 1980s. And what I decided to do is pull up these listings, these sold listings on eBay, because there are a lot of people that opt to use eBay for their purchases. So I wanted to see what was basically happening with Moonlight. And this is a pretty hot character, pretty hot book right now because of the Moonlight Disney Plus show. But you can see here that some of the most recent sales for this were on May 14th. And you can see that this book was going for $800 on May 14th. I'm guessing somewhere around $800 on May 12th, around $650 on May 8th. $800 on May 5th. And I want to point out here something really interesting. This is actually something that I've spoken about before. That's basically a couple of days difference between these books, a large difference or delta in the prices, but take note that the less expensive book is a CBCS book and the more expensive is a CGC. You could assume that the market dynamics were the same, but this illustrates something that I've been talking about recently, in that CBCS books for several different reasons are going for less money. But my point here, somebody actually got a deal there on May 5th, on May 4th for $500 and some odd dollars. But my point here is that this is a book that is pretty hot right now and is going for a nice amount of money, right? Most recently, a buy it now for $800 on May 14th. So one of the questions that has to be asked is, what is the current value of this book? So I wanted to pull up Go Collect so that we could look at that together. And I use Go Collect primarily for looking at the value of graded books, both CGC and also CBCS. And you can see here again, Moonlight issue #1, a 9.8 has an FMV of $675. Again, most recent sale, buy it now, was $800. FMV is $675. The 30-day average is only $745. You can see which is down. But let's expand that a little bit and you see some similar data. There is one additional updated sale here from Heritage where somebody paid $900 for a 9.8 of Moonlight issue #1. This is an illustration of a book that you potentially want to stay away from. You want to stay away from it because this book is hot. This character is hot. People are asking for a lot and people are paying a lot in order to actually get this comic, which again speaks to the importance of timing. So that's one example there. Let me go ahead and clear this off of the screen. And we will attempt to look at another example. This one is also a Moonlight example, again, primarily because Moonlight is hot right now. It's a great way to kind of illustrate something that is really timely for a lot of people. This is Moonlight issue number 57. And this is a book that is hot because it is associated with Moon Knight, but it's also an homage to Amazing Spider-Man issue number 300. One of the books, a modern book that has been homaged to death, right? You can see that this book sold on May 16th for $345. Also on my comic shop, you can see it probably went somewhere in the low 300s, right? We could assume there on the 13th, $300 on May 5th. I don't know why that's in there, but scrolling down again, you can see about $300 or so, $359 somebody paid for this book. So roughly around the $300 mark is what it was going for. It went as high as $345 most recently. So let's take a look at what the value of this book happens to be. Again, by going to Go Collect, and we'll see what it looks like. Again, same book there. You can see a 9.8 has an FMV of $270 and 30 day of 300, a 90 day of 300, a 1 year of 275. We can expand that just a little bit. And we again see some pretty hefty sales. I think that was the exact same sale that we just saw there. Yeah, for 345 sales from eBay, but we definitely know that that came from my comic shop. But you can see those similar type of sales here. Again, this book is hot because not just because it's an homage to ASM 300, which makes it popular, but also because it is attached to Moon Knight. And you can see from the way that this trend line is going, this book is headed upward, right? You had a high there of 355 in early January, a little bit of a dip down to 275 in April, but it appears to be headed upward now. And the present dollar value, according to Go Collect, is $318 for this book, again, against an FMV of 270. Again, this is an illustration of a book potentially you want to avoid buying right now. Even if you are a big Moon Knight fan, maybe you're a big Todd McFarlane fan, a big fan of ASM 300 homages, now may not be the time to buy this book because it is hot, because the value of this book is essentially going up. Now may not be the time to actually look at this one. So let's look at one more example that I have teed up here. And that example is going to be Thor issue number 2, specifically Thor God of Thunder issue number 2. And you can see here that this book sold today on May 24th for $409. There was a sale yesterday for $475. That one actually is a CBCS book. So there's a little bit of a delta there, right? Between the CGC and CBCS. Again, we spoke about this in my value video comparing the two, that sometimes it would flip-flop. A lot of times it favored CGC, but in some cases it actually favors CBCS. And then in this instance, it absolutely does. So we have another book that sold on the exact same day, that being May 23rd for $425, $415, $420 right there. Okay. So let's scroll back up and let's do what we did for the last one. Let's look at the value according to Go Collect for issue number 2. And what we see here is that a 9.8 has a value of about $425. So I don't think that it's off that much. I mean, there was that one sale for $475, which was a little off, but generally speaking, I think that this one is in the ballpark. Now, what's going to be really interesting for this one is what happens. Wow, there was one. Wow, there's a couple that were not shown there. Both eBay, we'll have to see whether those were true sales. There's one here for $500, one for $600 on the 23rd. Another here almost for $500. There is the potential for this book to also be one that you want to steer clear of. Why? Why might you want to do that? I would say that because the trailer just dropped, right? This book was increasing in value prior to this. And I think you can see that And let's see if we can get the chart right to show. You can see that there was a little bit of a run up there, right? A little bit of a run up in the price for this. It got as high as $753 in July of last year, went down a little bit, and again, sitting around, to get out a little bit to 2022, sitting around $500 or roughly. There's a little bit of a run up for this book, potentially because people are fans of Gore the God Butcher, but also potentially because people are anticipating Gore coming into the MCU, specifically in the Thor movie. And what happened last night is the new trailer dropped for Thor. I think it was the second trailer dropped featuring Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. So the question becomes, what do we think is going to happen with the prices of this book right now? Like what we saw with Moonlight, there is the possibility that the asking prices will increase dramatically for this book above its current FMV. And you may be the biggest Gore the God Butcher fan out there, right? And if you are, potentially you already bought this book, but let's just say that you are. Even if you are the biggest Gore the God Butcher fan and you are new to the hobby, or you're new to Gore, if you will, now potentially isn't the time to buy this book, because the prices are going to potentially increase. And what we see historically with the values of a lot of books that are associated with movies and TV shows is that they do have a run up, and that run up gets really high around the time that the trailer drops. And oftentimes it actually drops dramatically after the movie comes out. So my point here is that if you are a huge fan of Gore the God Butcher, now may not be the time to buy it, because you're going to be buying it on the upward swing when you could potentially save your money and buy it on the downward swing on the other side. Now, you may have to wait a little while for that to happen, but you may be able to save yourself a nice chunk of money simply by adjusting the timing in which you choose to execute something. You could again say the exact same thing for Moonlight. Maybe now is not the time to buy Moonlight. Instead, you wait another 3-4 months and see what actually happens with those values as we get some additional distance between the last episode of Moonlight and what comes next, right? And technically, we don't even know what comes next, because there's been a lot of confusion as to whether there will be a second season, whether there's going to be a movie, whether there's going to be just some appearances in the MCU, right? My point here is that timing absolutely matters. And while we only looked at 3 examples in this video, there are a plethora of other books that probably fit this exact same situation. This entire video is an illustration of a concept that I rolled out a few years ago called the blue ocean speculation strategy. And there are people that will hear that will automatically assume that everything in this video is only about speculation. But the truth of the matter is that it's applicable to any and everyone that is interested in adding an awesome book to their collection for as little money as possible. And that includes collectors, investors, and speculators. And the idea here is really simple. It's really about focusing on books and characters that other people are not paying attention to. By doing that, you're going to be able to pick these books up for less money, versus focusing on the hot book that everyone is paying attention to. Sellers are increasing their prices, buyers are paying more money for it. If you want to compete in the red waters of competition, focus on the hot books. And by doing that, you're going to spend more money than is necessary, versus the blue ocean, focusing on all of the other books, all of the other characters that people are not making videos about. It honestly is just that simple. With that said, I'm going to wrap this video up. I hope that you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, I want to encourage you to leave a comment behind. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I want to encourage you to do that right now. Go ahead and turn on notifications, and that way you won't miss out on any of the content that comes out from the channel.